My name is Michael, and my life changed forever when I moved into an old townhouse in New York. I had recently been promoted at work and needed a bigger place to accommodate my growing family. The house, located in a quiet neighborhood, seemed perfect. It had a spacious basement, which I planned to convert into a game room for my teenage son and a workshop for myself. The house had been vacant for years, and the realtor mentioned it had a history, but I dismissed it, eager to settle in. My wife, Lisa, and our son, Jack, were equally excited about the move. However, from the first day, something felt off. The air in the basement was always cold, regardless of the weather outside. There was a damp, musty smell that persisted no matter how much I cleaned. Jack, usually fearless, refused to go down there alone. He said it gave him the creeps, but I chalked it up to the basement's naturally spooky atmosphere. A few weeks after moving in, strange things started happening. I would hear faint whispers coming from the basement, especially at night. At first, I thought it was the old pipes or the house settling, but the whispers grew louder and more distinct. One night as I was heading to bed, I saw a shadow move across the wall in the hallway. I quickly turned on the lights, but there was nothing there. Lisa was the first to see them. She was doing laundry in the basement when she saw a young girl standing in the corner, staring at her. The girl looked to be about 16, with long dark hair and a pale complexion. Lisa screamed, dropping the laundry basket. When she looked up again, the girl was gone. Terrified, Lisa ran upstairs and told me what had happened. I tried to calm her down, suggesting she might have imagined it. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. That night, I had a dream about the girl. She was in the basement crying and calling out for her mother. Determined to understand what was happening, I started researching the house's history. I discovered that it had once belonged to a woman named Margaret and her daughter, Emily. They had lived there in the 1940s. Emily was 16 when she and her mother disappeared without a trace. The case had never been solved, and rumors suggested foul play. I reached out to a local historian, Mrs. Henderson, who had written about the house. She confirmed the story and added that neighbors had reported seeing Margaret and Emily's spirits in the house over the years. Mrs. Henderson believed that their spirits were trapped, unable to move on because of their tragic deaths. One evening, I decided to confront the spirits. I went down to the basement, carrying an old photograph of Margaret and Emily that Mrs. Henderson had given me. I sat on the cold floor and called out to them, "Margaret, Emily, I know what happened to you. I want to help you find peace." The temperature dropped and I saw my breath in the air. The whispers began again, louder this time. Suddenly the girl appeared in front of me. She looked just like the photograph. Her eyes were filled with sadness and fear. "Help us," she whispered. "Tell me what happened," I said, my voice shaking. Emily's figure flickered, and I saw a second figure emerge from the shadows. It was Margaret, her face etched with worry. "We were killed," she said. "He wouldn't let us leave." "Who?" I asked, my heart pounding. "The man who owned the house before us. He was obsessed with dark magic. He trapped us here, binding our spirits to this place." I felt a surge of anger and sorrow. "How can I free you?" Margaret and Emily looked at each other, then back at me. "There's a box," Margaret said, "in the basement, hidden behind the wall. It contains the objects he used to bind us. Destroy it, and we can be free."
I spent the next few days searching the basement, tapping on the walls and looking for any hidden compartments. Finally, I found a loose brick. Behind it was a small, ornate box covered in dust. Inside were strange, ancient-looking objects and a book filled with incomprehensible symbols. I took the box to Mrs. Henderson, who confirmed that it contained items used in dark magic rituals. She suggested we burn the objects and perform a cleansing ritual to break the curse. That night, Mrs. Henderson, Lisa, and I went down to the basement. We built a small fire and threw the objects into the flames. Mrs. Henderson recited an ancient prayer, and we watched as the fire consumed the items.
As the last object burned, a cold wind swept through the basement, extinguishing the fire. The room filled with a bright light, and I saw Margaret and Emily standing together, smiling. "Thank you," Margaret said. "We are free now." The light faded, and the basement returned to normal. The oppressive feeling was gone, and the air felt warmer. We knew that Margaret and Emily had finally found peace.
In the days that followed, the strange occurrences stopped. Jack no longer felt afraid to go into the basement, and the house felt lighter and more welcoming. We never forgot Margaret and Emily, and we honored their memory by keeping their photograph in the living room.
Life went on, but we always remembered the spirits who had once shared our home. Their story became a part of our family's history, a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of compassion and understanding.